Hi, I'm Phyllis from southernfrugal.com. Well, we've got another discussion subject this morning, and we're going to call it Southern Niceness. I know, that's a new word, right? Southern Niceness. And so we wanted to just talk a little bit about how things are here in the South. And now in your area, I'm sure you've got all kinds of ways that people are nice in your area too. And y'all can just leave comments down below and let's hear all about it. So yesterday we did a little table talk. That's what one of the people who wrote in said. They called it table talk, so we'll call it that. It's table talk. And so I wanted to sort of give some of the things that I've noticed that people do in the South. And now I'm from Virginia, so I'm still in the South, but not deep South. So some of this stuff is going to be deep South stuff. Yeah. All right, so I wanted to start it off by saying that the South is, we're in the Bible Belt. And y'all know the scripture, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? So a lot of us have to live by that. And one of the ways we do that is we just try to be nice to everybody. And even when they're not nice to you, we're still nice to them, right? So anyway, one of the things that we had noticed when we were traveling throughout the country, of course, we love the South. Now, we did travel up north too, but the South is our home, really. So, one of the things we noticed, and I want to mention this in particular, was in the state of Texas. Let me move this camera around. My arm's getting tired. All right, in the state of Texas, when we were traveling out in more of the rural areas, I mean, I'm not talking about, downtown Houston or Dallas or even Austin or San Antonio, but out in the outskirts, because we were traveling all over the state. And one of the things we noticed when you get to those highways that are just two lanes and you're going faster than the car in front of you, they pull over and let you pass. And then they wave at you or, blink their lights or whatever. And so when that first started happening, we didn't quite know what was going on because, when somebody pulls over, you think, oh, there's something wrong with their car, but all they did was pull over and let us pass. So this kept happening. And finally we realized this is what people do out in the rural parts of Texas. They are just so nice to everybody. And another state I want to mention, because this one was just super, super good. In the state of Mississippi, when, of course, in traveling, you stop and you have to buy gas and you stop at convenience stores and then you stop at restaurants to eat and that kind of thing. And we noticed that the people in Mississippi were just unbelievably nice. They were super friendly, always tell you to have a nice day, look you right in the eye, and, ask you where you're from, where you're traveling to, all kinds of stuff. They just were super nice, and it wasn't just a couple of places. It was every place we stopped. So we really felt very welcome in the state of Mississippi. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is that in the South, or certainly here in South Carolina, people refer to women and men. Y'all have noticed how I always call my husband Mr. Bucky. Well, what that does in the South here is it just shows respect to that person. And for women, you don't say like Mrs. Phyllis, you say Miss Phyllis. And when you're talking to someone else, it shows affection and respect. So people like at church call me Miss Phyllis, and I call them that. Like I might say Miss Anna, or another way would be like we have a lady we call her Aunt Marie. Everybody calls her that. Everybody. And that's just showing respect to her. She's an older lady. So anyway, that's how we do in the South, at least here in South Carolina. And so when you would say to me, if you were talking to me like my neighbor Chris, he always, if he comes to the door, he always says Miss Phyllis. he doesn't use the married thing, Mrs. He says Miss. So I just wanted to tell you all about that. That's just the way we do. And I made a couple of notes here. Another thing that we do in the South is we share produce from our garden to anyone who's your neighbor or someone who just comes by your house, and you've got tomatoes, cucumbers, whatever, you just share. That's just what you do. And then people give you stuff. It just goes back and forth like that. So now Mr. Bucky's got some things that he wanted to talk about too, to do with it's just a politeness, a niceness that is in the South. I think probably more so than a lot of other areas. Now, even in large cities in the South, it's this way. So anyway, I'm going to let Mr. Bucky talk for a minute here now. All right, here you go.
Hey, well, I want to talk a little bit about what a Southern gentleman is expected to do, and what we do. And one of the things we would do would be to open the door for our wives to enter into the car, and especially when you go out to eat or something like that. Another thing would be if you're walking down the sidewalk, the gentleman always walks on the outside and the lady to the inside. That's just something that we do. And another thing is that when we have a meal, we always bless the meal and the one who prepared it, or the ones who prepared it if it was a banquet or something like that. It's usually Mama. She's usually the one. And we wait for Mama to sit down to eat before we eat. That's another thing. And of course, I'm not really talking so much about the yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir, but of course we do that. A thank you and you're welcome. These are kinds of greetings that we have that we always use. And as far as, I'll refer to my notes a little bit too. As far as acknowledging an elderly lady, and sometimes even an elderly man, but on an elderly lady particularly, you're going to greet that elderly lady with maybe a tip of your hat and a nod, or a tip of your cap. Now,
Would that be your baseball cap?
Well, that would be because of course I wear that most of the time. But I remember, Mr. Bobby Gressett, he would take off his hat whenever an elderly lady came into the picture. He'd take off his hat and say, "How are you today, ma'am?" And that's something that just a gentleman does. So another thing is when we're in a store and we have a lady behind, well, first of all, when we enter into the store, if a lady comes up behind you, whatever store, and you've got to open the door. So you open the door and let the lady go in first. And of course the lady will usually say, "Well, thank you," and you'll say, "You're welcome." But that's just the politeness that we have here in the South. Another thing would be if you're at the grocery counter and you're getting ready to check out, and there's a lady behind you that has about the same amount of groceries that you have. Now, I'm not talking about a long line. I mean, it doesn't work very well. But if you've got a lady behind you and she's right there, and you could certainly say, "Well, come on, you can come on in front of me, ma'am." And that's something that a gentleman does. And another thing is, on a crowded bus, if you're on the bus and there aren't any seats available and you're sitting down and a lady is there, the man stands up, the gentleman stands up and says, "Please have this seat, ma'am." That's another thing that we do in the South. And
Of course, we don't really have buses anymore, do we?
no,
Except right in
well,
the.
that's true, but even in a Greyhound, I guess, unless they're assigning seats now. Another thing would be if if a rain comes up, and usually a man doesn't have an umbrella, but if a man does have an umbrella, he always offers it to the lady who might not have an umbrella. So that's just something that we do. Now, I mentioned about on be walking on the outside on the sidewalk, and I'm sure that goes back to the old days, whenever the streets weren't paved and the stagecoach came through or the wagon and splashed the water everywhere. It's just something that we do. Let's see. We wave at people.
Do you wave at people you don't even know, don't you?
Right. That's
You
right.
just wave at everybody when you're driving in the
right.
car. You
That's
wave at
right.
everybody.
That's
Throw
right.
your hand up.
You
Yeah.
throw your hand up, and you might even ask me, say, who was that? Most of the time I'll know who it is, especially in a small town, I'll say, well, that was so-and-so. But sometimes I might not. And I say, well, yeah, I don't know.
But you still waved
I
at them.
still wait.
Yeah.
That's
You're
just
really
something we do.
acknowledging they're another human being in the world.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And let's see here. That's pretty much it, what I've got written down. But especially when you're going into a restaurant, you don't get ahead of your wife. The lady.
Or if you're in a group, not any of the ladies. The
That's
ladies
right.
always
That's
go
right.
first.
Ladies go first.
Yeah.
Always ladies first.
Right.
That's just a rule that we have in the South. So these were some of the things that I thought about. And like you said, always be a man of your word.
Right.
If you say you're going to do something, you do it. That comes down to whether you borrow something from someone, or whether you say that you're going to cut the grass on such and such day. You do it. You do it. And that's something else that we do. Dress appropriately for occasions. Gentlemen should always be properly dressed.
What
I
does that
think.
mean?
Well, that means.
What does that mean?
Unfortunately, I
Because
think
now everything is so casual.
Things have sort of slipped. But
Yeah.
I think, men, when you go to church, you'll find the older men are going to wear a suit or a sport coat and tie.
Yeah.
And the younger men may come without the tie, very casual look. But I still think it's appropriate to dress for church with a coat and tie, and that just happens to be maybe a custom that we have in the South.
Well, we always put on our best clothes to go to church.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you, you always wear your best dress.
That's right.
And that's something that comes with going to church or going to an important meeting or what have you. We don't wear hats like we used to. My daddy always wore a hat to work.
And women used to wear gloves and a hat.
Right.
And even young girls wore those little white gloves back in
Yeah.
the 50s.
Yeah, and always wore a hat to church.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas the men wouldn't dare go into church
Yeah,
with a hat
yeah.
on. Although I have seen some now this day and time.
All right, so I've got a couple more things too. Let me turn the camera around. All right, let me back off. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to mention that it's so great to see this in the South. When you're shopping in a store, like a grocery store, and someone is, you know how wide the aisles are, so someone is standing there, maybe they're looking at the spices and they can't quite see what they're looking for, so they back off and they're sort of standing more toward the other side of the aisle, and you want to go through. Well, when you push your cart through, you say, "Excuse me," and they say, "Certainly." So you go on by then, because you don't want to interrupt. They're looking for whatever they're looking for. Now, I'll have to say it's not that way everywhere, because certainly when we visited New Mexico, it wasn't that way. In fact, it was so bad that we were in this pretty big grocery store, and I had gone around, and we were almost through with the shopping. And so Mr. Bucky and I were standing there talking about something, and trying to figure out what to get, because we were staying in a condo, so we were cooking our own meals. And this guy came up and took my cart. I guess he liked what I had picked out. And he took my cart and was going on to check out with it. And I kept saying, wait, hold on, you've got my card. And he just ignored me and kept going. So he got all the way up to the checkout. And I said, Mister, you have taken my card. This is not your card. And he still didn't act like he knew what I was talking about, you know? So anyway, I think that we are super nice in the grocery store and super polite to people. And one other thing I wanted to mention, when you are, say, living in an apartment or you've rented a house somewhere and you're ready to move out and you're going to move into another location, or maybe you bought your own house, when you move out, you leave the house in better shape, or the apartment, than you found it. That's just a rule. Just leave it better than you found it. Now, if you're renting a place at the beach, leave it better than you found it. And that's the way most people do here. So you don't really move into a place where people haven't cleaned up their own mess, you know? You just kind of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So you wouldn't want to move into a real dump. So anyway, all right, so another one I wanted to mention is giving compliments to strangers. So the occasion will come up and you'll see somebody in a store and you look at, or anywhere, and you look at them and you think, boy, they sure are dressed nice. And if they're close to you or they look at you and acknowledge you, just tell them, you really look nice today. Or, that is a great outfit you've got on. Anything, and it just breaks the stranger silence is what it does. And sometimes you can even get to know that person. So you can just, don't give a compliment that you don't mean. But if you do mean it, go ahead and tell that person. Just, or like the way someone parks their car. You really pulled into that parking place like a pro. Just go ahead and tell them. Because it won't hurt you. It'll make you feel better and it'll make them feel great. So, and sometimes it'll make their whole day. All right, so I don't really know of anything else other than. Oh, he's got wait a minute. He's got a couple of things. All right, here goes.
I forgot this. When you're in the store, sometimes they'll run out of good grocery carts. And there won't be any grocery cart available, and here comes a lady needing a cart, and I've got a cart. So the gentleman gives the lady the cart. That's the thing to do, and then maybe the gentleman can chase down another cart that'll work for him. But sometimes they run out of carts. Like at Walmart, I've seen Walmart run out of carts where all of them be outside maybe. The other thing I wanted to mention was that, especially if this is true at the post office or maybe at church or whatever, and you see an elderly lady or an elderly gentleman trying to get out of their car, and it's obvious they're having trouble, and of course the gentleman would go over and help the elderly man or the elderly lady get out of the car. That's just something that we do. That's something that a gentleman is expected to do. So I just thought about those two things that I hadn't mentioned before.
Yeah, I got another one. I'd like to just tell you about a kindness that happened with me. This was many years ago. I used to wear contact lenses years ago. And so I had gone to the grocery store, and this is when I was a single parent. And I had gone to the grocery store, and it had started raining, and this is how long ago it was. They were using paper bags. That's how long ago it was. And so I was, had the groceries, in the bags in the cart, and I rushed out to the car and opened the trunk, and I picked up a couple of the bags and had already put them in the trunk, and I went to pick up another one, and the bag had gotten wet. It was raining so hard, and so when I picked it up by the edge, the bag ripped, and when that happened, my hand slipped off and I went boing and hit myself in the head. I'm boing like that really hard, and it kind of
hurt.
Yeah, it hurt. And I knocked loose one of my contact lenses. It didn't fly out, but it was kind of moved off, to the side, and I was going like that. And after I did that, that was the last bag in the grocery cart, and it was on an incline in the parking lot, and the grocery cart started going down the incline to the road to go out in the main road. And so this young gentleman, I guess he was probably in his 20s, came running up to me and he said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." And of course, I hadn't even realized the cart was rolling. He said, "Well, your cart's rolling." And he just ran down there and caught the cart just before it went out into the main road where there was a lot of traffic. It was just a bizarre accident, but he was so nice because he saw that I had hit myself, bang, right in the forehead with my own hand when the bag ripped. So now the stuff didn't fall everywhere. It kind of like the bag went in the trunk, really, because I'd already had it over the cart. And it was in the, but bang, right like that. So anyway, he was so nice to have helped me. And there are many other kindnesses people have done. And I think it's a great thing to remember those and to pass it on to somebody else, to be, really, really nice to them. Even someone you don't know, a stranger. Yeah, a total stranger. You can be nice without being intrusive, like you wouldn't want to go up and start talking about how cute somebody's baby is and then start playing with the baby because people would be really suspicious of that. But just, being nice. Now, I got one more. So we were out west, and we were in Durango. Is that Colorado?
Right.
Yeah, Durango.
Colorado.
Is it Colorado?
Colorado.
Yeah, in Durango, Colorado. And we were right, or was that when we went to the Grand Canyon? No, that was the Grand Canyon.
Well, which?
I'm trying to think where we were. Well, you take the train to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, that's right. You take the train, but you also take one to Durango to Silverton.
To Silverton. Okay, it's the same place then, right?
Right. Well.
But the different train.
Yeah.
Different train. Okay.
You take the train both places.
Yeah, but it's all from Durango and
No. But from Durango to Silverton.
All right. How did we go to the Grand Canyon? What city?
That's in Arizona.
I know, but what city was that?
Let's see.
He doesn't remember
Right
either.
now, I can't remember.
Okay.
Williams, maybe.
All right, something like that. Williams. Yeah.
I think that's where we spent the
So
day.
yeah. So anyway, we were getting on that train to go to the Grand Canyon, just because we wanted to do it that way, because we wanted to avoid all the traffic or some reason.
I think so.
I don't know why. Anyway, that's what we did, and so we were on the train, and it was a very nice car we were in, and the seats faced each other, and you had plenty of room and everything. So, and the ride was what, 45 minutes, an hour. It was a pretty good time.
Yeah.
So this family came in with, I think they had 3 children, as I remember. And so we were sort of sitting across from them, and of course the kids were all looking out the window. Everybody was excited, to go to the Grand Canyon. So I was looking out the window too, and all of a sudden I saw these, what are those, pronghorn?
Yeah,
No,
antelope.
the antelope, yeah, the antelope that have
Pronghorn
the
antelope.
back end is white. There was a whole group of them out there, and I said, without thinking, the kids were all there. I'd say the kids were 4, maybe 6 and 8, young children. And they were all excited, looking, trying to see something. I said, "Oh, look, there are some antelopes." And of course, all 3 of the children came running to the window to look. And so I was just trying to be nice to them. And the mother and the father got real antsy about it. I don't think they liked me paying attention to their children. So anyway, I asked where they were from. They said, "Well, we're from California." And I thought, okay, you're from California. You don't want anybody talking to your children.
Different culture.
But yeah, it's a different culture. But they did get to see the antelope, and they were real excited about that. So anyway, it's different in different parts of the country for sure.
Right.
Now, you have anything you want to
I
add?
just wanted to say
All right,
this.
wait a minute. Let me turn around, get you on camera.
I really believe this because it's changing so much. It used to be that the woman of a house did not have a job.
That's true.
They stayed home with the children.
Right.
And she did all of the cooking, the cleaning up, all of the chores. Pretty much. The man worked a lot longer hours than we work now. There was no such thing as a 40-hour work week. I can remember when we worked 60 hours a week. But at any rate, I think that what's happened with the men, they've taken over a lot of responsibility for the cooking and things like that normally they wouldn't have done. And I really believe that that's a product of their upbringing too, as Southern gentlemen, to go ahead and help out any way they can. And especially it happens in the kitchen because the wife is out working all the time. So she doesn't have time to prepare all the meals.
But he's working too.
Right, that's true.
Right.
Of course, when we're retired like us now,
right.
I'm not working, right?
Right. Right. Well, neither one of us are working outside the home.
I know, but I just think that's a carryover, maybe, from the gentleman that we learn to be.
Yeah. Oh, I've got one more. Okay, this might end up a long video. I have to back up. Don't want you to see my wrinkles. There we go. All right, so this is something that both my grandmother and most particularly my mother taught us, because there were 5 children in our family, and the first 3 were kind of close together, and then the last 2 were kind of close together. But one of the things that always happened is if you were, say, cutting pie for the family, you would cut the pie, and whichever was the smallest, worst looking piece, that's the piece you took, and you gave everybody else the best piece. So that kind of being taught that from the time you were young is very hard to break once you're older, because if you're the one doing the serving, you give everybody else the best and you take the least of it. That's just the way we do it. And so, of course, my mother taught us that, and you put the other person first. You just always do that. And then that way, good things come back to you. That's scriptural, right? It is. All right, so is that it?
I think so.
All right. So let me turn the camera around again. Say goodbye.
Goodbye. We enjoyed this.
Now, of course, we enjoyed all the comments from the melding that we did yesterday, right? And
We
so
certainly did.
So maybe we'll get some comments on this one too. Now, let me just say this. We're not trying to say that people aren't nice everywhere, because there are nice people everywhere. But in the South, there's a certain way of being nice, and it just kind of follows through, I guess because a lot of us are raised the same way.
Right.
You think?
Raised the same way. Now, one thing has disappeared. Maybe you can tell me differently.
All right.
Has the curtsy disappeared?
Absolutely. We don't curtsy here in the
There's
South.
no curtsies
No,
anymore.
we don't. And we also don't wear those little white gloves to church anymore.
That's right.
And we don't wear hats.
church.
Well, some people still wear
Still wear,
hats.
yeah.
Not many, though. But what else do we do? Now, I can remember when you couldn't wear pants. Women couldn't, or girls couldn't wear pants to school. You had to.
Right.
Everybody had to wear.
I'm glad that's changed.
You had to wear a dress. Yeah.
I'm glad that's changed.
And boys couldn't wear blue jeans. They had to wear dress pants.
Right.
I remember that.
But I do think that because we want to present ourselves before the Lord.
When you go to church.
When we go to church, we really ought to dress up.
Yeah, put on your best. Even
right.
even if your best is just a nice pair of jeans, just do your best.
You can wear a pair of jeans and put a tie on too.
You can, yeah,
Sure,
people
yeah.
do that. They also wear jeans with flip-flops.
That's
We've
true.
seen that at church too.
That's true.
All right, y'all, we're gonna cut this off now. And so anyway, leave your comments. I would love to hear them. We got a lot of comments on the video yesterday, and it's just fun. Y'all send us
Sure is.
send us comments. All right, we'll see y'all later.